Hello and welcome to another edition of the Steelers Depot live stream. I am Alex Kozora, joined by Dave Bryan as always for the next hour to answer your Steelers questions. No, it's been a little bit since our last Q&A stream. Apologize for that, but with the Monday night game last week versus the Giants, which of course Pittsburgh won to get the 6-2 at the bye, figured we would not try to squeeze something in certainly on Monday and just too much going on to recap the game on Tuesday to get around to that. So we are back. I think it's a good time for it. You got the bye week, trade deadline tomorrow. So appreciate you guys stopping by. And Dave, thank you for being here. How you doing?
Happy Monday. My wife's been out of town for several days and I have doggy duty and the rest of the house duty, and I promise not to take her for granted until the next time I take her for granted. I got a little bit of breaking news here, Alex. I know something that you've been worried about. Taylor Swift has arrived for tonight's Chiefs-Bucks game, so you can rest your worries. Taylor Swift will be at the Monday night game here tonight. So
weight off my shoulders. So thank you.
Yeah, I knew you were waiting for that news to come across, so I figured I'd get that out of the way. But yeah, doing well. Kind of nice, relaxful weekend for the most part. Not having a Steelers game to get ready for, and got to watch a little bit of ball before chasing the dog up and down the stairs numerous times. So imagine we got quite a few questions to get to tonight from the listeners. So I guess we should get after it.
Just like the Steelers chasing wide receivers, and we'll see if they land one by 4 p.m. tomorrow, so I'm sure there'll be questions about that. If you're new to the live stream, Dave and I are here until top of the hour, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. If you guys could like this video, would really appreciate that. Also, subscribe to the channel. It would really help support the channel and SteelersDepot.com. If you want a guarantee of your question being asked and answered, you can send us a super chat and you'll move to the front of the line. No obligation to do so, but we always appreciate those all the same. All right, jumping into the questions here, and it starts off with our friend Mike Adesso, who says, few questions on how waivers work. Could Dylan Cook decline offers from other teams to sign to their roster practice squad this past weekend? Steelers have the option to promote if a team wants to poach him, right? I'll take the second one. Yes, Pittsburgh can match and promote if a team tries to poach. And Dave, does Cook have flexibility if another team were to come calling?
No, if you're on waivers, if you get put on waivers and have to go through the waiver process, if a team claims you, you go to that team. And another thing is after the trade deadline here tomorrow, after that, all veterans also will be subject to waivers.
Good point.
So there's just no termination of contract. All players, vested, non-vested, and alike after tomorrow will be subject to waivers, and they do that so that teams will have shots at these guys instead of there being some worries about collusion or stuff along those lines there. So I believe as far as poaching goes, I mean, what have we seen in the past? Who was that defensive lineman years ago that was on the practice squad that the Panthers got? He was a draft pick, wasn't he? Rashawn Harris.
From Pittsburgh? Sonny Harris?
Yeah, Sonny Harris, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. I don't remember. It's been so long ago, but it seemed like there was something about maybe they were wanting him to put him on the 53. I'll have to double check that as far as if another team comes calling off the practice squad, if the team has the right to put him on the 53.
I'm pretty sure they
automatically. I'd like to think. I think that's the case, but I'm not. I got to be careful here because if I say 100% sure that's right, and something jump up, someone will say, you said last time that. But I think that's the way it works there. Now as far as waivers go, if you put a player on waivers and another team claims him, he's claimed.
Right, you're going there. I think, and another thing to not quote me on, if you're on the practice squad, a team comes calling, even if you don't get promoted, I think you can technically still decline that and say, I want to stay on the practice squad and maybe get an increase in salary, or just, I don't want to go to a different team. I want to say there was an example of that within the last 3, 4, 5 years of somebody declining an option to go to a 53 and remain on his current team's practice squad.
I think we've seen in the past, even with the Steelers, that they've gotten bumped in practice squad pay, haven't we?
I believe so. So good question there. But yeah, for waivers, if you're claimed, you're going. And then, yeah, I believe teams have the ability to block and promote if a team tries to poach. So hopefully that answers the question there, Mike. All right, John Pennington says, hello, Dave and Alex. I have to ask this question. What players, from what you have seen so far, would you like the team to re-sign for next season or not? I'm not 100% there, John. So much can still change the back half of the year. We kind of know the names right now. I think it's going to be really interesting, Dave, how Pittsburgh handles Najee Harris in the offseason. He's having his best season. Let's assume that continues. Do you do a long-term deal with him? Is the franchise tag even a remote possibility? How do you handle Harris is going to be, I think, a really big storyline behind the quarterback situation heading into 2025.
Well, obviously, if you want to guarantee him not hitting free agent, you'd either have to use the transition tag or the franchise tag on him. That's the guaranteed way to keep him away from free agency. Now, obviously, the start of the new league year isn't until March. So after the season started, if you wanted to, I would imagine if you really had sights on trying to keep him, you would try to work out a long-term deal before even having to get to the point of using the transition or franchise tag. But then again, if a player thinks that your only alternative is going to be a franchise or transition tag, then he's probably going to want money along those terms anyway, or close to it. So, it's going to be an interesting discussion to have. It just goes back to kind of the original fifth-year option decision. Why didn't this team use the fifth-year option on him and then worry about it at a later date? Did they just not want to insult him? Did they legitimately think maybe they had a chance to sign him to a contract extension during the off season? I had several talks with you during the podcast of thinking, man, really thinking that there was a decent chance that they might sign him to an extension this offseason, along the lines of what Ramondre Stevenson got, make him somewhere in that top 5, 6, 7 highest paid running back spot there. But if you want a guaranteed way to keep him off free agency, you'd have to transition tag or franchise tag him. And I don't know if you want to do that,
right.
Because once you put that tag on it, that goes against the cap, and barring a new contract worked out, that's what the player's cap number will be. So, obviously still have a half of a season left to go. I think Najee's having a fantastic season so far. If he does hit free agency, he's probably going to be in demand, you would think, if he stays healthy and all. You talk about a guy that hasn't missed a game as a professional, and well on his way to having another 1,000-yard season. So, that's about long and short of it, I think.
Yeah, you summed it up well. Some other names to consider: Dante Jackson, Dan Moore Jr., of course, the quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, even Kyle Allen, the entire quarterback room not under contract for 2025. Even smaller name guys, Isaiah Loudermilk, for example, he's going to be a free agent after the season. Do you bring him back? I think those odds have increased based off his play this season. So it's hard to, I don't have a line-by-line, keep him, don't keep him. We'll do that in the offseason when you have the totality of the season in the rear view mirror. But good question, John. We'll certainly be thinking and talking about that for down the road type stuff.
Yeah, and obviously when it comes to unrestricted guys right now, guys like Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, obviously top of that list. James Daniels is gone. I think that's a foregone conclusion. You talked about Dante Jackson. some lower level names that I don't think they would fall all over themselves breaking the bank on. Landon Roberts' contract's up after this year. DeMonte Casey would be a minimum salary guy. You obviously got several wide receivers on there, Van Jefferson and Scotty Miller, who were 1-year guys, Michael Pruitt, Tyler Matakevich, Cameron Sutton, James Pierre. I mean, a lot of these guys, it's just going to be, will they take minimum salary to come back? But the notable names, I don't think aren't hard to pick out here. And with obviously the quarterbacks leading the list, Najee Harris obviously being within that, and Dante Jackson. Those would probably headline the unrestricted guys as you sit here right now. And a lot of these guys on this list right now, are they going to make it on the 53 for the rest of the season? You got a guy like Max Sharping on there right now. Ben Skoronek's on there. You mentioned Dan Moore's another one. Going to be probably in high demand. Loudermilk, as you mentioned, but even though that's more of probably a minimum salary guy. So you can bet the closer we get to the end of the regular season, we always keep this list updated. It's not hard to find either. And then we'll have posts as we do right after the season ends, going over the unrestricted, the restricted, and the exclusive right free agent guys.
Yeah, Dave always puts together a really good list and something worth bookmarking. So be on the lookout for that once the season concludes, hopefully well into January and dare I say even February. Just want to give a quick shout out to everyone in the chat right now. And again, if you guys could like this video, would really appreciate that to bring in as many as Steelers Nation as possible. We got David, we got Ronald, Emery, Jonathan, Jojo, Byron, Halfway Conscious, Tommy and Elizabeth Britton. We got Pino, Morrow, Lumberzack, Maths, Josh is here as well. So just want to thank you guys for hanging out with us on this Monday. Speaking of Josh, he says, what are we all looking forward to the most with the in-season Hard Knocks? Feels like Tomlin will attract the most camera time, but the Russ Fields relationship might also get special attention. Don't know how much screen time each team gets, though. I'm not 100% sure. Doing this for the division, I think it's the first time they've ever done the whole division, and so how they split that up will be interesting. I think Russ and Fields, that dynamic will be key. I think Tomlin, just some of the behind-the-scenes stuff. I think there'll probably be a segment dedicated to Danny Smith just because he's a great quote and great for the camera. Who was that Browns O-line coach a couple of years ago?
Oh, yeah.
That got all that attention? Could see a similar thing with Danny Smith. So, I think the screen time may vary a little bit based on storylines. I think there'll kind of be an A story and a B story and, so on and so forth. It'll be split, I'm sure, pretty evenly overall. But I imagine when you're talking to true contenders in, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Cincy, the focus may be on them the longer you go into the series.
I would imagine they'd try to get a younger player of some sort. Maybe a guy like Beanie might end up being kind of a main character or something like that. You obviously want somebody with some personality. I mean, Joey Porter Jr. would probably be a good one to probably wouldn't be hard to kind of twist his arm to be a part of that. Some of these guys would podcast, Cameron Hayward probably going to get, a little bit of time in there. I don't know what to expect, obviously, with this being the first time. And I would imagine trying to divvy up between 4 teams will make it kind of tough. Be prepared to be underwhelmed, I think. Probably with it not living up to expectations, especially with it trying to cover all 4 teams. So I'm prepared to be underwhelmed, and I'll be happy if I'm overwhelmed.
Have you've watched the in-season versions before? Have they been? I know they were singularly focused on a team, but how well were they produced?
I think of late, the in-season ones have been better than the preseason ones, to be honest with you. So man, who was it? Was
Cardinals?
it the Cardinals or the Eagles? One of them. There's so many of them now, spanned for so many years now. But it seems as of late, the in-season ones have been better than the before. Even though I watched a lot of that Giants one this year, and there were some interesting segments in there. It was probably one of the better preseason ones as of late. The Giants one was.
Yeah, all that Barkley conversation really got some national attention. Good question, though, Josh, and we'll all find out together. It's going to be in just about a month. I think the first episode drops, and Pat Freiermuth said they were setting up cameras before the bye, and I think they're filming basically starting post-bye, and certainly for that AFC North game, that first one in week number 11. Maths Arslan, may mispronounce that, I apologize, says, what grade would you give Arthur Smith so far this year? Do you think it is likely that either quarterback is on the roster next year? Again, in-season grades like re-signings, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. I've been happy with the job Smith has done. The offense is competent and organized, and they pair plays well, and they're 13th in points per game, and they're ascending. So, you're certainly happy with that based on how things have been. So I would say maybe a BB+, but I just don't spend much time on that particular letter grade. And I think one of Wilson or Fields will be on this roster next year, but not both.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you just said. I mean, it's nice. It's nice to actually turn on the tape and see things that are easily identifiable, that are kind of like maybe new on a week-to-week basis, or at least built off of other things in the past. I mean, you see, it's easy to pick out some things like some mirror concepts in certain situations. A couple times we've even seen some 14 personnel in some certain short yardage type situations. You've seen people get open more times than not, like some of a couple of games ago, all the rub-offs that they did in against a man type situations. That worked real well. I mean, even some things that, even though they didn't put the ball in the end zone enough this last game against the Giants there, you saw some situations where the ball should have been in the end zone. You and I talk about a couple of those, one throw where it looked like, Russell Wilson maybe should have went backside to Calvin Austin. And then on the other one, it looked like a miscommunication between Russell Wilson and Van Jefferson on a play that was very similar to the touchdown that Van Jefferson had against the Jets. Same sort of concept, different kind of spacing. They just weren't on the same page together. So on a week-to-week basis, I like what I see out of what Arthur Smith's doing. I think as a whole, what he's doing is not surprising based on kind of the things that we broke down and Alex broke down and had all the film rooms on Arthur Smith. Coming out of what he had done at his previous stops and the coaches clinic that we tore through and things like that. But I like the way things are trending right now, especially the last couple of weeks with Russell Wilson. And you obviously want to see this team be able to build on that moving forward. They're spreading the football around a little bit more to the eligibles since Russell Wilson took back over. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, as a Steelers fan, the last 3, 4, 5 seasons, it's hard to be really excited about the offense, and it's hard not to be excited about the offense right now. Now, as far as the second part of the question, it's at least where we sit right now, it's hard to imagine or hard not to imagine at least one of these guys being back. Between Fields and Wilson. And I think, if Wilson stays healthy the rest of the year and plays well, and we don't see very much of Fields throughout the rest of the season, maybe there's a slight chance they get both those guys back.
And it won't be cheap, though. If Wilson can lead this team to a playoff victory, we're talking minimum $30 million per year, and I think $40 million is a more likely number he's going to be shooting for after playing for so cheap in Pittsburgh. I know Denver's on the hook for nearly the $40 million he's owed, but Pittsburgh certainly got away with paying the literal minimum for Wilson this year. Not going to happen twice. So good problem to have if they want both back, if they can get both back, but it's not going to be at the economical cost it was this year. All right, let's see. We got a question from Lumberzack94. Says, been seeing Dulac saying they might be looking for a position other than wide receiver in the trade market. If you guys had to guess what position and who would you think are even somewhat likely? Dave and I discussed this briefly on the podcast Monday morning, even before the Dulac report came out. Could it be a backup corner? Could it be a backup nose tackle? Dulac was hinting something maybe defensively, I think, mentioning those positions. In terms of a name, I've really spent very little time looking at who might be available, so I really don't have a name to give you. But those are some other positions. Maybe I think Dulek said edge too. I think with Herbert coming back, though, it feels less of a need, but something like that.
Yeah, I mean, assuming, and it sounds like it might be a little bit up in the air on whether or not this is the week Herbig comes back or not. But we'll obviously get a better idea as the week goes on. But even if Herbig was to miss this next game, you would think he'd be back the week after that. And Moon, obviously, I think Moon has put a few nice pass rushes on tape here at times. Obviously, he would be the number 4 once Herbig got back, and then Moon's also showed that he can help you out on special teams. So you only need four edge guys in total. So I would be surprised unless it was something related to Herbig missing even more time. I would be surprised it'd be if it's an edge or anything like that. Now, back up as we talked on the podcast this morning, could you upgrade, with another backup corner? Yeah, but I mean, as far as being able to throw names out, I mean, you're not going to go. It's not going to be a high profile guy or anything like that. And I would imagine anybody trading for such a guy would be a very minimal compensation, something like that. But I think the two positions we pretty much talked about was maybe a backup corner or a backup nose tackle or something like that, depending on how long Montravius Adams is going to be out. But obviously all the eyes are on whether or not this team adds a wide receiver. I couldn't see them doing anything else on the offensive side of football. Tackles, any tackle worth trading for at this point is probably going to go to another team, at this point. So I would imagine it wouldn't be offense outside of wide receiver. And if it was defense, and I doubt it happens, but if it were, it would be probably a corner.
I think if I had to guess another position, I would say backup nose tackle. Montravius Adams with a knee injury. Don't know the extent of that one, but he's going to miss at least a couple more weeks and potentially more. There is no real true backup nose tackle on the 53 right now. They did bring back Braden Foco to the practice squad. They can use Lowry there. They used him for one snap at nose tackle last week. Loudermilk, in theory, could do it as well, but there really is no true guy. So I guess I could see that, but a name I just have not given it a thought in terms of who's out there. I don't even know of any rumors about D linemen that are available that could be reasonable and make sense for Pittsburgh. So I couldn't tell you, but if it wasn't receiver, then I'll say nose tackle. All right, next question comes from, and we're about 20 minutes in, 77 in the chat. Would love to see triple digits today. So if you guys could like the stream to try to get us to our goal, would really appreciate that. Mike Adesso saying, crazy idea, but a team like the Raiders with no future quarterback should trade for Fields and give him the rest of the year to audition, maybe offer a day 2 pick. Thoughts, would the Steelers do that? Well, it helps they fire Luke Getsy. I don't think Fields would want to go back there and have those two reunite from their tough time in Chicago. I don't know. I don't know what's in their head right now. I think Pittsburgh, you don't trade a quarterback right now. You need both those guys. God forbid Wilson gets hurt. You have Fields, your offense still stays similar. You still feel like you got a chance in this thing. All due to respect to Kyle Allen. If you lose Wilson, you turn to Kyle Allen, your playoff hopes really go away. You could still maybe make the playoffs, but winning a game, your odds really diminish significantly. So I think you stand pat. Even if the Raiders are offering something tasty, it's still hard to do that.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine anything like that happening, especially with, Fields not under contract past this year on top of it. And the Steelers need to, as cheap as both those guys are, and you already got Fields having some experience in your offense earlier in the season. It'd be foolish to trade him away because, look at what happened just now with Dallas, Yeah. You're one snap away from being on your backup quarterback, So I would be absolutely shocked if they sent a quarterback out the door.
Mauro Campos says, happy Monday. Do you guys think the team will give Broderick Jones the same time to develop, adapt as they did with Moore? We'll see. They're publicly very confident in Jones, and there's certainly a story to be told, a lesson to be learned from the patience with Dan Moore and what he's become, and he's going to get paid here handsomely in the offseason, probably by a team other than Pittsburgh. But there's always that tough question. When do you throw in the towel on a player? I'm not saying to do that now on Jones. I'm not. But, at what point do you say give him time versus we got to find something else? And it's hard to really know where that line is at. let the season play out and, go from there. If they lose Dan Moore, then Jones, I think, still would be the favorite to slide over to left tackle. So you probably give him 20-25 at left tackle and make a decision from there.
It doesn't sound like they're anywhere close to being close to giving up on him right now. They're just going to try to work him through it. Obviously, see how the second half of the season goes here and get more snaps underneath his belt. And I think even Charlie Batch came out this morning and said the bye week couldn't have come at a better time for Broderick Jones. So we'll see how this week off treats him, and obviously got some very important games coming up in the second half of the season against stronger teams. So it would take a lot for Broderick Jones to get benched at this point, especially with Troy Fautanu on IR now and not expected to be back.
Pino Bordone says, any updates on Troy Fautanu? Speaking of which, and can he make it back for the playoffs? When he first went on IR, the reporting was out for the regular season, a chance for the playoffs. If this dislocated kneecap is like David DeCastro's when he suffered hits in his rookie year in 2012, DeCastro missed about 3 months. I think for Fautanu, he put 3 months on his timetable. Any situation is unique and different, rehab, all that kind of stuff. But that would put it at about early, mid-January. So in theory, yes, he could come back for the playoffs. Would he start after missing all that time being a rookie? That's really asking a lot, as high on Fautanu as his team has clearly been from the get-go. But yes, in theory, that door's not closed if they can make it to the playoffs, and certainly if they can win a playoff game.
Be a good problem to have. We're talking about playoffs and talking about Troy Fautanu possibly coming back for the playoffs.
Yeah, especially divisional round, which is the word we've not gotten to use too often around in Pittsburgh, other than saying they're not playing in the divisional round. Let's see, good question from Pino. Tommy and Elizabeth Britton says, what's your thoughts on Minka being traded? Is it a rumor or truth? This, I think, just comes from an Athletic beat writer who just mentioned it. I'll pull up the article right now. And that's why we're a little careful. Obviously, we're good about this, but we're a little careful in terms of throwing around trade stuff too often, because I think it kind of gets run with as in it's reports and are they actually going to do it? This is a speculation, which is fine, but there's no rumor. Minka's going to be a Steeler.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah. So it's just, idle speculation, which I'm not critiquing. I'm just saying it is not anything to worry about ahead of tomorrow's deadline. Let's see. Halfway Conscious says, happy Monday, crew. Can CJ Henderson develop into that cornerback too? He can't really be that bad, can he? It's been a tough NFL career for him, being a top 10 pick. Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, don't hold your breath. Went that long and to even get signed on to a practice squad, right? So obviously he's floated around. He's had some tough times. I think at this point you're just hoping maybe you can develop him into just a backup. But does he even have much special teams value on top of it? It seems like the answer. This is the same C.J. Henderson that conned me into believing he was going to be active this past week. I believed him. He had said during the week ahead of that Giants game that he thought he was going to dress and be active for the game, and lo and behold, he was inactive. He was a healthy scratch for this team. So the fact that the Steelers have been dressing so few cornerbacks anyway for games, the fact that he couldn't get a helmet, not even one for special teams, is a little bit concerning. And then now you have Cameron Sutton back on the 53-man roster officially as of today because his roster exemption expired. You have to wonder if C.J. Henderson gonna even get a helmet here for this team moving forward. Might take an injury or something for that to happen. So I'd hold my breath on him developing into a cornerback number 2.
Yeah, again, good problem to have if he can show that. But let's get him a single snap in Pittsburgh before we talk about anything like that, unlikely to occur. Byron asked about upgrades, kind of talked about other positions besides wide receiver. David Kapoor says, can the Steelers put up 41 like the Bungles and Ratbirds just did, though both teams blowing out the Broncos and Raiders in week number 9, Dave? Can Pittsburgh put up 41 in a game?
If they finish drives like they didn't do in the game against the Giants, They start putting the ball in the end zone versus settling for field goals. I think for this team to start hitting that 40 burger number, we're going to have to start talking about some first drives of games ending in touchdowns. The way the defense has been setting up the offense several times this year. I mean, look, I wouldn't count on a week-to-week basis, but do I think that this offense has the capability from what we've seen over the last couple of weeks of at some point, maybe against, I don't know, Browns or something like that, of putting up 40? I think it's capable. You just got to finish drives. How many times have we seen this team, especially in the last several weeks, or really even moving back to when Fields, a couple of those early games there, able to move the football down the field, but just couldn't do anything with it when they get inside the red zone there. So, to put points on the board, you got to finish these drives, and that's something that they've had some trouble doing, even as recent as this last game against the Giants. So, man, I'd be happy just to see 30 on a week-to-week basis. You're going to win a lot of ball games. You put up 30 points on the board.
When was the last time Pittsburgh put up at least 40 in a game? Was it the Panthers game in 2018 when they had 52 in that Thursday night game? They obviously did not do it in the Canada era. Did they do it in 2020? They didn't do it in 19. I'm pretty sure, because that was that miserable year losing Ben. Unless they did it in 20 against the Eagles. Did they put up 40 in that game? It was like 38.
38 against the Eagles.
So that would be the Panthers game in 2018. Last time Pittsburgh put up 40, and again, they put up 50 in that game. Yeah, I think Pittsburgh is capable of doing it with Wilson and the heights this offense has taken under him. As you said, Dave, they could have put up a 40 burger against the Giants if they weren't 0 for 4 in the red zone and had some of those fluky things happen. So they are capable of it, but I would not call them as potent or as quote-unquote expected or likely to do it in any singular game as the Ravens and the Bengals, so I still think have more potent offenses overall.
Right.
All right, next question comes from Jared Mayak, who says, all offseason it was Pat would be used as the number 2 receiver. Any concern with his usage so far? You guys keep me company on my many dog walks. Dave, you mentioned you're on doggy duty. What kind of dog do you have? I'll talk about the pup first, Dave, or Pat Freiermuth.
I got a West Highland Terrier, Westie. This is our third Westie we've had now. So we really like the breed because of doesn't shed as much and allergies and stuff like that. And plus they full of personality type dogs. And we got Hammy. He was 6 months old when we got him. His full name's Hamilton. We call him Hammy for short because he's a ham. And he is now 5 years old. So that's the dog situation. And it's 5. What's the other part of the question, Pat Freiermuth?
Yeah. Are you disappointed in his usage at all? Do you feel like it's been a little underwhelming? What's your take on Freiermuth in this offense?
He hasn't been used as much maybe as I kind of thought he might be used at the start of the season. I mean, here we are now coming out of the bye week. He has just 26 receptions. The good thing is at least his average yard per catch is 10.2. Remember a couple years ago, even though he was utilized, he was, what was it? Something like 8.1 or something.
Yeah, his rookie year especially.
Yeah. Kind of thought maybe he'd have maybe another touchdown or two to this point. I don't, not severely underused, but I kind of envision maybe at the halfway point of the season him having, 30, 35 receptions. So he's not too far off that. But once again, at least he's got his average yard per receptions 10.2. He has been in the end zone a couple of times so far this season. I would suspect this second half of the season to be a better half of the season than his first half.
Yeah, when you're 6-2, you're leading late, so you're not throwing as much. Pittsburgh is 31st in pass attempts per game, so the volume isn't there. And Arthur Smith's system famously is for distributing the football and less concentration, maybe a number 1 who gets decent volume, as is the case with George Pickens, but from there it's spread out more evenly. So I think they've used them smarter with the multiple tight end sets, the 12 personnel, 13 personnel. Freiermuth is standing up and playing on his feet more than ever before to help minimize him as a blocker, maximize him as a receiver. There's ebbs and flows to it, so I'm not too terribly concerned or disappointed in the usage and production from Pat Freiermuth.
Of course, I probably, if you would have gave me the over-under for this time of season, before the season has said over-under Darnell Washington 11 receptions, I probably would have taken the under.
Yeah, and we were talking about 60 or so, I think, with Freiermuth for the over-under. How many did you say he has right now?
Washington or Freiermuth?
Freiermuth.
Freiermuth's got 26 catches for 264 yards.
So he's still on pace for roughly, 60 catches?
Yeah, I kind of envision him maybe being in that 70 mark, though. You know?
It takes one game, though, where he catches 8, maybe late in the game or just some sort of shootout where that number spikes up. So we'll see.
Just keep winning.
Just keep winning. David Putt with a generous $10 super chat. Thank you so much, David. He says, I've been a big fan of Dylan Cook getting in the lineup with recent developments. Does it make the most sense that there is something off the field that warranted his dismissal? Should point out Cook signed to the practice squad today, so he is back with the organization, just not on the 53. I really couldn't tell you what happened to make the team decide to waive him and then push him back onto the practice squad. I was excited about Dylan Cook, too. Thought he had a really good camp in 2023. Made the 53, spent the entire season on there. Thought his camp this year was a little bit more muted, a little more subdued. Not bad, but just maybe not the jump that I thought it would be. Then it hurts his foot and is out for, this first 6, 7, 8 weeks of the season. So I don't know. I don't think it was off the field. It's just my guess. I can't tell you that with certainty, but it probably was just him getting hurt and him liking the group and finding a way to keep both Calvin Anderson and Dylan Cook and getting Cook to the practice squad.
Let's see. When did they open his window? That was on the 17th of October. So
yeah, they had some time to still activate him.
Yeah, of course. By now, let's see. 17th. How many days would today have been? Let's see. 1, 2. They would have had until 7, 14. They would have had until the 7th. Which is Thursday, to do something with him. So it was a bit peculiar. Not only did they take him off IR, put him on the 53, and then turned around and waived him. It was just, the whole thing was curious, really. So is it something he did? Probably not. It's probably, like you said, maybe just behind the train, and he really didn't have as memorable of a summer or preseason as he had the season before, but not that Calvin Anderson's really, from what I've seen, obviously we didn't get to see Calvin during the preseason with the Steelers and all, so the whole thing was just a bit curious. But Dylan seems like a good kid. I wouldn't think that he did anything personally. Maybe it's something to do with his conditioning or just being behind the rest of the train at this point.
Yeah, just a young guy, still young. No NFL snaps, getting hurt. It's going to set you back. And had there been off the field, they wouldn't have brought him back for the practice squad if there was some sort of big off field issue. So it just football. It just happens, and we'll see what happens going forward. Got another very generous $10 super chat from Jeff Bruder, who says, just wanted to show support. Love the Steelers Depot site, and I've followed for years and years. Best place to get info on the Steelers. Keep up the great work. So appreciate you, Jeff. Thanks for all the great conversations that we've had with you. And appreciate the super chat and everyone who's here today. Yeah. All right, get to our next question. Let me scroll back up. We got Jason here as well, always a regular for these live streams, so appreciate that. Jack Beasley says, when was the last time you guys have been to a game in person? Dave, when was the last time you saw Pittsburgh up close and personal?
Oh, Lord. Man, it had to been...
The Greg Lloyd game, he got hurt?
No, it's been since then. I've been to some preseason games since then. That's the only regular season game, though, I think I've been to be honest with you, was Steelers Jacksonville that week 1 when Greg Lloyd got injured. I think that was the only regular season game I had been to. I've been to a lot of preseason games like in Atlanta and New Orleans. But I think the last official game I've been to was a preseason game against New Orleans, however many years ago that was. I don't do great around crowds and crowds and all like that and all these days. So it's not something that's high. I'd much rather watch. Me, I'd much rather watch it on TV, turn around and rewatch it real quick. And I'm not one that's great in crowds, and I don't need all that.
And the water bottles in my house are free and not $11, which helps as well. I think last one for me was one of those many of the heartbreaking Raiders games. I want to say maybe the Bruce Gradkowski game, and maybe I went to a Colts preseason game. I want to say that was after. My timeline on those things not 100% clear, a little fuzzy, but I know I was at one of those Raiders heartbreak, maybe the Ryan Mundy penalty late in the game. I want to say that one, but it has been a while. I was at the stadium for training camp in 2021 when they held it there. Made the daily trip there, not for a game, of course, but that's the last time I was actually at the stadium.
Yeah, since I quit, since I changed my life and got rid of several things that I'm not supposed to do, I get situations where I can have, like panic attacks and get around too large of crowds. Now, when we went just this summer over to Denver, we took in a Buccos game, Pirates versus Colorado out there, and that was enjoyable to go to. So, but yeah, I'm not big into crowds. I like going to minor league hockey games and all because the crowds are not as thick and all. And hockey's my second favorite sport. So if we go on vacation anywhere and there's a minor league hockey team playing, I'll try to take in a game.
Nice. Going to put out just one last call out. If anyone just joined to like the stream, would really appreciate that. Also, I apologize. I missed a question from Jonathan. He says, what do you most attribute this season's improvement on offense? You can point to play design, calling, quarterback, O-line, running back play, and so much more. It really is all the above. I think certainly starts with play caller, having a good structure and scheme and culture, identity. The quarterback play's been elevated. The offensive line's been able to find some semblance of consistency and stability. But yeah, I think it probably starts with Arthur Smith and just this team really building an identity for itself and being able to execute that vision.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you point to on the offensive side of football. Quarterback play, not turning the football over, the ability to run, just play design. You could do without some of that snap, the bad snap situations that we saw go from the preseason into the regular season. Knock on wood, haven't seen a lot of that show up, especially since Russ has taken over. How much play action have we seen? True play action, under center type stuff. It seemed like we went for a long time not seeing a lot of that with Ben under center and all like that. So once again, you got to go back several years since the offensive side of the tape's been this fun to watch.
It's funny you mentioned that. I have another article on play action coming out tomorrow. Last year, Pittsburgh used play action per our charting from Tom Mead 88 times. This year, they're sitting at 83. So they've almost done as much play action through 8 games this year than they did through 17 last year. They'll probably surpass it in that Commanders game. So it's been more than double the percentage of play action. And under Wilson, it's been really, really effective. That's going to be another point of emphasis in my article tomorrow. Russell Wilson has thrown for more yards off of play action in 2 games than Fields and the Steelers did in his 6 starts. So it's been just a night and day difference. It's really unlocked this offense, taken it to a next level. But again, there's a lot of factors that go into why this offense has improved.
I'm going to have to Google this, what Vegas TJ, what's a parkour champion? I don't even know what that is.
That is the, how do I explain it well, the running kind of thing where you jump over obstacles and like just outside buildings and, just you run around outside and kind of do the...
Oh, you don't have to worry about me at my age doing
Yeah, I think it's a tongue-in-cheek there, but I don't think you're doing actually any actual parkour.
I think I'm coming up on my 20-year anniversary of retiring from softball, from church softball because of bone spurs and all in the ankles. I got old quick. So, you don't have to worry about me running around and jumping and doing anything that's not fearing for my life.
All right, there you go. Parliament Film says, referring to the Benton article that I wrote earlier, many discussions focused on Benton. Do you see him being moved to the end and for the Steelers to draft a big body nose tackle on day 1, 2? I don't. They like Benton a nose tackle. It's a modern day thing. You don't have to have that plugger, and Benton's been, I think, okay against the run. Not great, but serviceable. The point of my article was just to really get him to focus on that second move. If he can have that second, 1B move to that so wicked good 1A club over, then he'll become a really effective pass rusher and won't kind of peter out as games go on. So he's a nose tackle. I'm good with that. The way Hargrave was a more athletic nose tackle. Just want to focus on technique a little bit more.
I mean, I could see him playing more. I mean, depending on needs moving forward and all like that, because true nose tackles are a lot cheaper. The draft, uh, as far as what they cost in a draft is a lot lower and all like that. So, I mean, could you potentially post Ogunjobi, see someone like Benton kick out into the 3-eye for more? I could see something like that potentially happening.
I mean, he can do it. He did it early at Wisconsin. He's had a couple of snaps when Cam got hurt last year. He kicked out and played some more DN. But, do you want to create a hole by moving Benton around? So, I don't know. I like him at nose tackle. I like him against some of those centers. He can kind of dominate and win some of those 1v1 matchups more often than you might out on the tackles, out near the edge. So I do like him in the middle. And yeah, he might cost more, but he still has only 1 sack in 25 career games. That's some plugger production. I know the pressure has been there, and it's kind of just been some bad luck, but you want to get some of those rushes home and to finish some of those plays to get paid.
Need to see a little bit more production from him in the second half.
Yeah, and again, when you over-rely on that one move, linemen are able to adjust and counter it later in the game, and that's the point. I like Benton. He's a good player. He's working hard. He was a good pick overall. There's just that next step he can take, and if he can take it, then you really got something impressive there. If not, then I'm always going to feel like he's not reaching his fullest potential. All right, about 15 minutes left. Let's see. Who will be back this week, says Tim Chase. We'll get the health update from Tomlin Tuesday. First injury report on Wednesday, but potentially Zach Frazier, Nick Herbig, Justin Fields, Cordell Patterson, Tyler Matakevich. Of course, Cam Sutton off his suspension. So, good odds they're going to get some reinforcements back.
Yeah, we should learn more from Mike Tomlin hopefully on Tuesday, and then obviously the first injury report. Really interested to see Herbig's participation level and Cordell Patterson's participation level. Seems like guys like Frazier and Fields and a few of those others should be fine, and I would think Matakevich probably on Saturday. We'll have to see, but when was Matakevich's 21-day window open?
It was a couple days after Cook. I don't know if the window is going to be closed by this weekend, but I think there's a good chance he'll get activated on Saturday.
Yeah, let me see if I can find out real quick. When that was October 24th for Matakevich.
So we're about only a week and a half or so in, be 2 weeks by the end of this week. So he doesn't have to be activated, but if he can get full in practice, then he'll probably get the promotion.
Right. So it's not Gary. Saturday would be the day that they would do it, probably, if they did it.
Yeah.
Obviously, because the game being on Sunday there. So we'll have to watch that. But the Wednesday first injury report usually, sheds a lot of light.
Right, so we will see. I can't tell you exactly who will come back. It sounds like I feel confident in Patterson. I think Frazier too. Herbig, I'm a little less certain it'll be this week, but he'll have a chance, it sounds like. And again, we'll hear from Tomlin and follow this thing throughout the week. But there should be some guys coming back, which is, of course, good news. I got a $20 super chat from Vegas TJG. No comment there, but I assume it's going to be for the Dave Bryan Medical Fund for all the parkour he'll be doing. So
yeah, unless I'm running for my life, I guess all I have to do is outrun my wife because I'm with her most of the time, right?
Okay. Hopefully Tiff is not listening to this one.
I don't know. She's pretty quick, though. She probably run quicker than me.
Chasing the dog around, I don't know, it might be your exercise.
Boy, I got my work this week. Boy, like I said, I'm not going to take her for granted until the next time I take her for granted.
Let's see. Mr. Tummy says Hard Knocks debuts December 3rd at 9 p.m. on HBO. So mark your calendars. We certainly will be covering the weekly show. Rob Lightfoot says, who's your midseason offense and defense MVPs? We had a midseason article go up on awards for the halfway point. I'm trying to think who you voted for. I voted for... Go ahead, Dave.
I voted for Chris Boswell.
I like it. Offensive MVP, seriously.
Yeah.
And defensively, did you go Watt?
Yeah.
I had some maybe more unconventional picks. I went Dan Moore Jr. for offensive MVP for that left tackle, considering the state of the O-line. He's been the only one to play and start every single game. He's had a really good season. He'll have, I think, tougher tests coming up in Myles Garrett and Washington and Kansas City and Philadelphia, etc. So there'll be a really big litmus test the back half of the year, but he's played well. He's been durable. This team's been hemorrhaging offensive tackles with Broderick Jones struggles. Moore's impressive plays been magnified all the more, and the value of the position for that left tackle spot, I gave the edge to him. Defensively, I went Cam Hayward. Certainly could go TJ Watt, but it all starts with run defense, and he's played great run defense, and the pass rush power has been back to collapse the pocket. The sacks may not have always been there, but the pressures have been very impactful. Think about the Broncos game, the pressure he got on Bo Nix led to the Corey Trace Jr. interception, those types of plays. So Watt certainly deserving, but I think it starts run defense, front and center, and for all the doubt that Hayward got from the fan base this offseason, he's really proving all those doubts wrong.
Good recap.
All right, let's go to a couple more questions. About 10 minutes left. John Horvat, has the Broderick Jones situation gotten as bad or worse than Kendrick Green a few years ago? I don't know if we're at that point yet.
No, Kendrick was on the ground so much, and look, I mean, it's obviously not. It's a lot of technical stuff. At least you can find some good snaps.
Yeah.
In there with Broderick Jones, even though you got to look hard, few far between the pass protection stuff. He's trying his ass off. He's technically flawed. And in the run game, a couple times a game, you can see him definitely doing his job in the run game there. So no, to me, it's nowhere close to Kendrick Green. One of the main things with Kendrick Green that stuck out to me right out of the chute, and I got jumped on first couple of games of Kendrick Green's career, pointing out how much he was on the ground,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't help anybody when you're on the ground, and that was the main bugaboo with him overall. Broderick he needs to be rebuilt. You need to start over, tear him down and start over with him as best as you can, and also, didn't have was moderately, inexperienced coming out of Georgia there, and he's still cutting his teeth. Yeah, I'm not saying he's going to be the next Dan Moore, but just remember back to those first couple years with Dan Moore, and how down most of us were on Dan Moore. And I saw I've seen it mentioned a couple of times by ex-NFL players, linemen, saying sometimes it takes 3 or 4 years,
sure,
especially for tackles to sink or swim, Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of teams don't have time, for that to happen. So it's going to be interesting to watch the second half of the season here, see if we can at least see some discernible difference with Broderick Jones and have more good snaps than bad.
Yeah, it's going to be key for sure. And you're right. There's talk about a lot of quarterback development problems in the NFL, which is true and fair, but there's offensive tackle development problems too from the college game, because these guys don't kick set. They're in spread systems. They don't have to pass pro as much or as often. It's so much zone read type of stuff that it's a different world than when you get in the NFL, and it's more traditional in terms of working on your slide. And, oh yeah, you got to block the freakiest athletes in the world off the edge routinely. We're going to face Myles Garrett twice a year. Not easy to do going backwards. So there is a need for patience and development and teaching. But again, where do you draw the line between give this guy more time versus he's just not going to be the guy we thought he was? It's hard to really know that, but you're going to have to make a call at some point on Jones or any struggling offensive tackle.
I think assuming he stays healthy a year from now,
I agree.
I think by then you've given him enough time at that point.
All right, let's go to our next question from Sebastian Sanchez. Says, is Logan Lee going to come back this year? Nothing that prevents him technically from doing so, but I don't get the sense he will.
It feels like you're going to have a lot of injuries, and even so, he's so behind. Hasn't played. It feels a lot would have to go wrong for him to come back off of IR.
Yeah, I mean, anyone can be designated to return once you're added there from, post cut downs on, but he hasn't yet, and I don't know what the injury was to begin with, but I don't know if it was so serious that he's still trying to work his way back from health. So I think Pittsburgh will preserve one of those spots in terms of to return. Can only do 8 guys in the regular season. I don't know if they'll use it on Logan Lee. I mean, although he did play nose tackle in the summer, don't think he was really meant to play nose tackle, felt miscast, but with Montravius Adams out, would they give Lee a look there? It's asking a lot for a rookie lineman who's missed all that time to play even a couple of snaps, but just a thought. All right, let's get to a couple more questions. Let's see. Tim Chase, any trade rumors for a wideout heating up? It sounds like Adam Thielen kind of is maybe the top name that's just being discussed right now. A little on Jacoby Myers, Darius Slayton. We'll see.
I don't think it's so much rumors as it is just these guys speculating and connecting the dots more than anything. I don't think anybody has any real hard info on it. It feels like it. I mean, look, there's only so many names out there at this point, and obviously the situation the Panthers are in, and a couple of these other guys that we've talked about with Slayton, and I know who was it, Pelissero on the Eisen shows said seems like it'd take a lot to wrestle Cortland Sutton away. It feels like it's just anybody with that pays attention to the NFL could build a quick and dirty small list here, and I think that's what pretty much everybody has done up until this point. And now we have less than 24 hours to find out if any of these names that have been bantered about. I feel comfortable with the name, the 4 or 5 guy names that are out there. The Slaytons, Adam Thielen. Who else?
Myers, Mike Williams.
Jacoby Myers, Mike Williams. If it ends up being somebody, it's probably going to be one of the names that's kind of been bantered about. But I think it's just mostly educated speculation up until this point.
Slayton would be ideal for me. The proposal that I put out earlier, trade Slayton and get back a 7th and give away a 5th-round pick next year. Pittsburgh has 2 of those 5s next year. I think makes a lot of sense, but we'll see if the Giants just want a deal. I don't know if they're willing to sell. They should be, but the reporting seemed to be they were more likely to hold on to Slayton and finish this year out. Sutton would be the biggest name, the best name, but I just don't get why Denver would sell at the deadline and give away Cortland Sutton.
Well, here's the thing right now. We are now past the business day of Monday, right, at 4 p.m. So we are technically in Tuesday's business day, so to speak. To the Steelers, they do not practice tomorrow, right? Day off. So obviously, if you're going to make a deal for somebody, you'd want him on the plane first thing in the morning, right? And get a physical and be ready to go for practice on Wednesday. So I guess what I'm getting at is if we were to hear something about a trade, I mean, it's 8 o'clock Eastern time right now, and between now and first thing in the morning, if something were going to happen, you think it's going to happen, right?
I don't know. Deadlines per action. Sometimes it takes until the last minute, and if the guy doesn't get traded for until 3 p.m., he can still come in that evening, take his physical, and he's not missing a practice. So I think this thing could go up all the way up to 4 p.m.
All right, we'll see. I tend to think if the Steelers are going to do something, it would happen by 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow.
All right, we shall see. Let's look for just 1 or 2 more questions left. Let's see, what else do we have here? Greg Hoke asking about trading for Dalvin Tomlinson or Andres Pete or Nate Davis. Tomlinson, I don't think so. Pete, Davis, I haven't followed their situations too much.
Isn't Tomlinson more of a guard now these days?
Well, that's nose tackle, Dalvin Tomlinson. You're thinking of Lakin Tomlinson?
I'm thinking of Lakin.
Yeah, Dalvin. I'm sorry. I might have just said Tomlinson. Yeah, you could throw out a bunch of different names. I wouldn't expect those things, but we shall see. Let's see. B. Eric McDay, would you keep Moore and trade Broderick? I'm not. not focused on that stuff right now, to be honest with you. I mean, doesn't have to be either or. Even if worst case Jones becomes a swing guy next year, if you re-sign Moore and Fautanu's your right tackle, then you keep your 3 intact. So, want to watch Broderick Jones the rest of the way, but I'm not even really thinking about those types of things. I don't really have an appetite to be trading away Broderick Jones. Traded away enough offensive linemen that didn't work out. Let's try to see what Jones can do and try to work with him. Dante versus Deontay from David Kapoor. Who would you rather have now? Good question. I think Dante Jackson has played well, maybe waned a bit the last couple days. Again, the issue I always had with that trade was, okay, you trade away Deontay, you've opened up a hole, even though you filled that cornerback spot. How do you replace the receiver position? That would kind of be the last leg of the trade in a sense, and that obviously has not really been filled. So, yeah, I think it's fair to say Dante right now, but I think the question's a little bit more complex than that.
There's going to be a lot of hand wringing if there's no wide receiver brought in the next few hours.
Oh, yeah. But at this point, even if they do, it's not going to be like some shock name that's going to change the whole perception of the Steelers team and turn them into Super Bowl contenders. It may move the needle a bit. It's going to help, all that kind of stuff. But Adam Thielen's not going to, Adam Thielen's a far cry from Brandon Ayuk from the summer of 2024.
Right.
All right. Let's see what else we have here quickly. Will Dion pull an Archie Manning and prevent Shador from getting drafted by the Browns? I have no idea. That's all going to be for draft problems and not for us right now.
Yeah, I don't know how. No clue.
Yep. All right, guys, we're going to wrap things up. Appreciate your being here. Appreciate all the super chats, and we'll be back in 2 weeks to see where this Steelers team is at with some big games on tap against the Commanders and Baltimore Ravens. So thank you guys so much. Dave, thank you for being here as always.
All right. Thank you. And thank you to my dog for not causing any issues here, sitting right behind me while I dog sit here. And thank you for everybody that showed up tonight. And thank you for the donations. And thank you for visiting the site and listening to the podcast. And thank you. Peace and love.
Got a video on the site and channel in a couple of days, probably for Wednesday, about the Steelers' run defense. One concern I have, so be sure to subscribe to the channel to be able to check out that one. But thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.